All right, here we are on our coursework book for tribal religions. Okay, so one quick note here is that you want to watch lectures, which you are if you're listening to this right now. For this workbook, the emphasis is on the 5 tasks and taking notes. You get a free 10 points as there is not a key term area for you to complete. All right, so tribal religions can include most any indigenous or nomadic group in the world. Tribal religions can include hybrid movements that combine traditional practices with major world religions. In places such as America, there are over 500 known and accepted tribal groups. There are also other groups here in America that are not officially recognized tribes, many that are actually still trying to gain recognition. Ultimately, for our course, you can go on and read through there. Ultimately, for our course, our focus is on 3 areas: the North American tribes, the African tribes, and the Gagadu of Australia. All right, so online discussions will include or require lecture, workbook, and textbook, and will benefit from reviewing some of the suggested YouTube clips. There's also a website, sacredtext.com, that is an acceptable text or acceptable website and resource for your projects. And the link for Native America and Africa are right there. So here it says, add notes from lecture. All right, so the first thing we want to do is make sure we understand the language we're using in our course. And that includes time. Most people think, well, BC, AD, before Christ, after that. Only thing is, that is very religious-centric to one particular religion. And if we were to honestly use those numbers, we wouldn't be in the year that we currently are. The figure Jesus was not born in the year 0 or 1. He was actually born somewhere between about 4 and 8, probably between 4 and 6 BCE. So, BCE means before the Common Era, and CE is Common Era, based on the calendar that is generally accepted around the world today. Now, if we go back to primal religions, what we're looking at with primal religions is it's something that is prior to 8000 BCE. Real quick, the reason we're using that date is because of agricultural revolution. So prior to this agricultural revolution, and it does vary, it's not the exact same year everywhere around the world, although it's interesting how much the agricultural revolution does occur roughly at the same time in many major places around the world. All right, so going back to primal religions. So primal religions are those that are existing prior to 8000 BCE. They are marked by hunters and gatherers, very nomadic lifestyle. We'll come back and bring you some more information about that shortly. Agricultural revolution takes place. So what is agricultural revolution? It means that agriculture is developed. What is agriculture? It is farming. What does farming allow us to do? It allows us to stay in one place, to not only be hunters and gatherers, but also be farming. Not only have a nomadic lifestyle, but essentially change that lifestyle into a sedentary one. Sedentary lifestyles allow us to have larger families, develop more rituals, and a number of things we're going to come up to shortly as we go through these notes. The archaic time period is from 8000 to approximately 3000 BCE. The historic time period is from about 3000 until 1000 BCE. This is when we start seeing really large-scale urbanization, increased individualism, increased roles and jobs that we would have. And we start seeing changes in religious associations. So before we go back to really diving into traits of primal religions and traits of archaic, I want to go through this list of questions. So for this area, you're presented with a number of ideas, questions, and areas for you to develop your thoughts. This area is great for adding notes and, well, your thoughts. So if you remember, cosmological, nature is the source of the ultimate. It is around us. Once you've watched the video on the Australian Aborigines, you'll understand when I say that rock there, that rock is in Juanjua. So cosmological religions at this time and primal religions, and even going into the archaic time period, we know that they are observation based. They're looking at the world. They're trying to figure out what's happening and come up with reasons for it. So one thing that tends to happen is they have a cyclical sense of time with a few slight variations. Why do you think this is? What are they observing in the world around them that might tell them that time is cyclical? Taking it a step further, many tribal religions, especially the ones we go to when we get older and older, archaic, but then mostly primal, we see that they are non-apocalyptic, non-eschatological. So those words, do you know what they mean? All right, so just a little side here. I miss teaching in person and being able to record this lecture as a back and forth discussion. So non-apocalyptic, non-eschatological means there's not an end time. There's not going to be an apocalypse. This goes back to the cyclical sense of time. Right. Rituals and myths are tied to the cycles. So what are some of the examples that are followed? What effect does this have on the stories and rituals of tribal life? Inherent connection to nature, human responsibility to nature, and humans cannot transcend nature. Think about the Gagaju. Think about Billy Ilkir as he is painting the animals. What was the purpose of him doing that? Worship, reverence, honoring, or valuing of nature and natural elements, formation of totems, sacred stories, or of specific places and items. Does this have an effect on the relationship of man to the environment? So we're reading this right here. Humans cannot transcend nature. So what effect does that have? Is there an environmental ethic that comes about as a result to this? What do you think that ethic could be? Why do you think it is there? Religion and society are one. There's not any secularization or separation of this is the religion, this is something else. This changes slowly as we move from primal to archaic, and especially as we move from archaic to historic time periods. How does this differ from the modern view of sacred life versus secular, our spiritual life versus our regular life, or if you wish, our 3D life versus our 5D life? Social order, but not necessarily hierarchical clans form by what the role that person, that group has. Questions of concern are answered by a focus on nature, cycles, clan roles, actions and reactions in relation to magic, divination, witchcraft, and the paranormal. So I want you to look through these questions. I want you to try and, as Real 10 says, experience them from within. Think about what it's like to not have all the advancements of society or even a long history of religion. They're just trying to understand things. In a sense, it's their own scientific method. It is observation. Just one example of a cycle real quick could be the cycle of the moon and what happens when the moon is at different points, such as with tides if they live near bodies of water. So I really want you to get in and think about these questions. And this is a note area, so by filling out this area, you're working towards your notes.